Hey guys. So I saw Maleficent today. So I'm just going to give my thoughts a little bit about it. Spoiler-free opinion. It's alright. I mean, it it's pretty good. The graphics are pretty. The acting's meh. Angelina Jolie kills the part, but like kills in a good way, and everybody else kills it in a bad way. Um, So that's the. I guess I should put a synopsis. Um, so it's the story of Maleficent, and it goes from pretty much her childhood up to the end of Sleeping Beauty. Although the accounts of Sleeping Beauty aren't exactly what one would expect. Aren't exactly sleeping isn't the Sleeping Beauty anyone knows. That's pretty much all you get from the synopsises. So, eh, it's good. It kind of you kind of really have to pay attention to it, and so I guess I should say, should you watch this movie? And I say yes, if only to form your own opinion about it. There are just there are just some movies that I'm like, no, do not see this, or I'm like, you should see this because it is an awesome movie. Um, Maleficent is kind of like, meh, you should see it. Just form your own opinion about it because I don't know why I have my headphones on. Um, yeah, that's pretty much all I can say about it without going into spoilers. So it's the 2 minute mark. So spoiler alert. I'm gonna put an annotation here that's just a spoiler alert to alert you for any spoilers and to allow for time for you to click off if you don't want any spoilers. Okay. Okay. So spoiling the movie. Okay, one of my main issues with this movie is that all three acts could have been their own movie. The first act, we have Maleficent as a child, and she meets the little Scottish boy who would become the king of the kingdom. And the entire story is based around this whole idea that the magical fairy kingdom, it's called a kingdom, but it has no king, and kind of the normal human kingdom are at odds with each other. Uh, Kind of a man against nature sort of thing. Anyway, so she meets the boy. He's not a prince, but he grows up to become a knight. She meets the boy, and they fall in love, courtship and all that. And when they turn 16, they kiss for the first time, and then that's the end of that. And then uh and then we get into like the boy's betrayal part. His name is Steven or something like that. I don't know. Anyway, so the the king that's ruling at this point in time decides to invade the enchanted forest or whatever it is, and then mm, Maleficent protects it, and the kingdom loses, and the king, so embarrassed by this defeat, orders the orders for Maleficent to be dealt with. So the boy who has grown up to be a knight then goes to Maleficent to warn her, but then ends up cutting her wings off. She had wings. I should have mentioned that. And so for vanquishing her, as the king thinks, really just cutting off her wings, Stephen becomes king. And then we get into the story of Sleeping Beauty, where, uh, you know, you get the gist. Although I think they changed some of the Sleeping Beauty plotline to make it even more like centered on Maleficent because uh, her curse is the forever sleep, but I think Aurora was originally cursed to die when her finger hit the needle, and then one of the fairies used their gifts to make it so that she wouldn't die. She would just be, in the magical sleep. So they changed that around, and we end up seeing how Aurora grows up and how Maleficent becomes attached to the child because the three good fairies are the most incompetent idiots that you'll ever meet in your life. So she ends up accidentally raising her. So it's like, whoops. Well, I guess I'm her mom now. But so we get that whole story where she's kind of raising her and protecting her from danger. And then Aurora believes that Maleficent is her fairy godmother. Don't, you know, which is an obvious conclusion when you think about it. um, because how else is she supposed to think of someone always in the shadows, you know, setting her on the right path? So let's see. Yeah, and then we get more into the plot of Sleeping Beauty. Uh, she is returned to the kingdom, sleep, and then I'm going to get into this, but this is kind of just the spoiler rundown. It's not the prince who saves her; it's Maleficent because she has a mother's love, and that's true. That's a truer love than faking romantic love, which I have my own opinion on that. That I'll tell you later. We have an epic fight. The king dies because he's kind of a jerk, and then they live happily ever after. So, problems. I already told you one of my major beefs is that all three acts could have been their own separate movies. We could have had a trilogy, although I'm not entirely sure if that would have been marketable, but actually it would have because Disney can plaster, can milk the nostalgia for all it's worth. Mosquitoes. But we could have had this first movie just be about the love between Maleficent and this little boy who would be king. And we could have just seen that relationship grow. And then up until he steals her wings. Bam! That's the end of the first movie. And then second movie, she puts the curse on Aurora. And then the movie is about her relationship with the girl that she never thought that she'd have, because it's kind of like, I won't say I'm in love type of deal. Like, she's protecting her, but she's kind of insisting, oh, I went through all this trouble putting a curse on her. I'm not going to let her die by falling off a cliff. Um, um, so, like, I think when she meets the prince, the second and third movies, maybe it would have been two movies. I just feel like we would have gotten a much better, like, plot development if we focused on one story. If we focused on the love story, or focused on the betrayal more, or focused on her side of Sleeping Beauty, we would have gotten a more developed story. And what we have is two or three stories that are not very well told or that are rushed through. And I think that hurt the movie a lot. So in the end, the prince is not the one who Awaken Sleeping Beauty. It's Maleficent, and Frozen did it better. Frozen, you totally got that the story was not based around romantic love. So, it kind of took us for that swerve there. Or, or the whole story was never a like there was this Hans and he was like a false lead, but we never really got to the point where, oh yeah, it's a love story. Yeah, it's a love story, but it's a love between sisters. We're never once given the idea that, oh yeah, well, a prince will cure Elsa, or kill her or whatever, or oh, the romantic love wasn't the focus of it, and so oh, it was a really neat subversion on the typical Disney formula, where the romantic aspect was averted for once, and then we have kind of this familial thing. Maleficent, it's more it's more of a predictable swerve. It's more of a predictable like subversion. Like, oh, the prince doesn't save her. Maleficent does because she was like a mother to her. Oh, that's kind of stupid. Like, the idea is not kind of stupid, just like how when Disney finds a formula, they tend to run into ground, and I don't think it worked in this movie very much. So I don't know. Uh, the changes to Sleeping Beauty that they did, like, considering, and one thing was like this movie was supposed to deal in shades of gray, but it was very black and white. It Except the roles were reversed. You really, you know, you don't really see that Maleficent is in the wrong. At least not for very much. Like the trailer scenes where she's actually putting the curse, that's the most evil she gets. Everything else is not like everything else is kind of prankish. She's not, you know, there's not shades of gray. You totally know where she's coming from. Is what she's doing called for? Well, yes. Her ex-boyfriend stole her wings so he could be king. I mean, I don't know if cursing your daughter is the right thing to do. Well, the right thing to do would be, like, for the fair folk, would probably just to forget it. Let the mud people do their thing. But I totally get it. I'm totally on the side with this one. And I'm totally, you know, yeah, why did you do that? Um, so there's not really much, like, they pretend to have shades of gray, but it's a very black and white story. And I didn't like that. But at the very least, they made this story that we all know kind of their own. And in that way, it's not totally like Wicked, because Wicked kind of just follows the story beat by beat. Like when it goes into the actual story of the Wizard of Oz, it kind of goes beat by beat, but from Elphaba's point of view. Um, uh, it's and with this movie, they really do take their liberties with the story. So it's not all the beats that you know, and they don't try to like super retcon things like they did in Alice in Wonderland. So also, Maleficent doesn't turn into a dragon. That's kind of the most picks, nitpicky of nitpicks. So I don't know. I liked it. I don't know. I You should watch it. Form your own opinion because I felt kind of conflicted watching this movie, but it was a real fun ride. So that was Maleficent. I'll talk to you guys later.